So, despite my last video being a nearly 2.5 hour long review of Five Nights at Freddy's, guess what? I'm still not done talking about it. Because we got ports to talk about. This was originally going to be a segment in the video, but I couldn't figure out a way to put it in without destroying the flow. So, it's just its own video now. Fun fact, this video was supposed to be finished and released around a week or two after the Five Nights at Freddy's video. Damn it. Five Nights at Freddy's may have started life as a PC game, but it has received mobile phone and console ports. I bought this, and this, specifically for this video. Well, not this video because of what I just said, but you know. Since the game is bad, these ports can't really do much to actually improve the game without changing it at its core. So the best these ports can really do is exist and not make the game function or play any worse, and preferably make some slight improvements to what can be improved without making it a totally different game. Did they do that? I hope so. It took me a really long time to find a copy of this on PS4. There was like one left at EB Games, and it was $46 Canadian, though it is 5 games, so I guess it's an investment because hopefully I'll cover the rest of the games in the future. Yeah, let's talk about the price first. Five Nights at Freddy's on console is $8, which is $3 more than on Steam for some reason. I guess ClickTeam really needed those $3 to get the port to work. For some reason, Freddy looks a lot darker on the game's cover, and this office on the disc isn't the Five Nights at Freddy's 2 office, or at least not the same render. Okay, since we're here, I guess we'll start off with the console version. Okay, so the first thing that's immediately noticeable is the change in the title screen music. The original music was stock music by someone with a name I won't even try pronouncing, and I found it listed on this website for the low price of whatever that number is. I can't count. I guess ClickTeam didn't feel like licensing the song again or something, so they commissioned Riskin to compose a new song for the title screen. It's really weird seeing the title screen with new music. I think it might be similar to what I said about the music box in the original Freddy's video. Perhaps if this song was used for the past 9 years, it wouldn't feel as strange to me. I will say the music at least isn't clashing in tone. It's still fitting a horror tension vibe and is composed decently. Though I wouldn't call it one of my favorite Leon songs for the series, it isn't super memorable for me. I know memorability in a horror soundtrack seems a bit weird, but there are a few Five Nights at Freddy's songs that are fairly memorable, at least for me. Now, brand new to this version of the game is the options menu, which is a little sad. In this options menu, we get subtitle options in a bunch of languages. This is certainly an inarguable improvement. I can see how the tinniness can make the phone call hard to understand, so subtitles are a plus. Or just a plus in general for people who just like subtitles on everything, like me. And if you don't like subtitles, turn them off, dipshit. Damn, they thought of everything. Something else this game offers is written text subtitles, so now you can read the backstory of children dying and being stuffed inside of animatronics if you're Spanish. Another set of options in the options is the cheats. This is something that wasn't in the original game, but was something Scott started doing as a prize for beating future games. We have unlimited power, radar, and fast nights. This was helpful for testing purposes. In the first video, I was able to test aspects of the AI without risk of dying and ruining the whole test to understand how they work and relay that to you. I was also able to prove, at least to myself, that Scott forgot to render images where more than one animatronic was on camera. I'm realizing now as I record this audio that I forgot to show that footage in the fucking video. Also, unlimited power shows off how the game would work if it would make sense. It wouldn't. Now, there is one thing I'm questioning here. Why is this unlocked from the start? Why do you give us the option to snap the game in half as soon as we boot it up? Yeah, sure, the trophies are disabled. It's not entirely encouraging you to play the whole game with them on, but you still get the stars. Why aren't these rewards for beating the game like in the later games? There are very little reasons to not use these, aside from your own restraint, I guess. Though, to be fair, I guess humans are good at self-restraint. That's why quitting smoking is so easy. Now, when starting the game, we get a rather pointless change. The text in the night transitions fade now. Neat, I guess. It's not a bad change at all. But who gives a shit? Well, I guess me. I talked about it. There were also some control changes done. obviously. You used to be able to play the game completely one-handed with just the movement of your mouse and left click, but now buttons have specific mappings. That's another tale of how simple Five Nights at Freddy's is. You can literally play it one-handed. Insert super funny masturbation joke here. Instead of moving a mouse left and right to look, you can now move the right stick, left stick, or press the directional buttons. Yeah, there's 3 ways to move your head in this game, and they're all at the same head tilting speed. The X button closes the door on whichever side you're facing. If you're not on PlayStation, the right button does. I don't really know why they changed the controls for the Xbox One version, considering the action button A is on the same spot as the main button on the PS4, which is X. Like, why? The lights is the O button or the bottom button on all of the other controls. In the original game, if you didn't feel like listening to a call, you could mute it with this mute button in the corner. However, it was only at the start of the phone call. Now you can mute it whenever with the top button, even after the mute rectangle disappears. At least on PS4 and Xbox One, I couldn't figure out what the mute button for the Switch was. I'm not buying the game another time on Switch because I don't give that much of a shit. Though the Switch has button remapping, so you could make it the top button if it isn't that already. So I'm technically correct. Fuck you. By the way, nowhere in the game does it tell you the controls. You kind of just have to figure it out all for yourself, which obviously is possible, but I don't see the harm in adding a control diagram somewhere in the game. Like, if not in front of the first night or two, maybe just in the options menu. Also, remember how you can click Freddy's nose on the poster and it'll make a honking noise? Well, they kept that feature, and you're probably wondering how. Well, I'll tell you. There's a dedicated honk button when you're facing a certain angle. When you're in the middle of the office or so, when you press the left button, you hear the honk. Imagine if you weren't already familiar with the Easter egg and how you had to click the poster to do it. Why the fuck is there a honking button? This is really weird because this kind of removes the charm and whole entire point of the Easter egg when you don't have that one-to-one connection that it's the nose being clicked on. Anyway, this new office control scheme is fine, but I did mess up my button presses frequently. Like, I go to close the door and I accidentally turn on the light, or more frequently flip up the camera, which is mapped to the left bumper. This confusion is mostly a me thing, but in the PC version you had your cursor and you clicked. So it's certainly easier to hit the right things in the PC version because you have that direct one-to-one visual communication. Because you have to memorize which button in your control corresponds with an action in the game, it's slightly disorienting for me, considering I'm so used to the PC version. Also, yeah, instead of hovering an arrow at the bottom of the screen, you flip up the camera by pressing the left bumper. Yeah, only the left bumper, not the triggers or even the right bumper. And to switch through the cameras, you move where you are on the map with a stick or the D-pad. So instead of selecting specific camera views, you kind of just move through them. It's a very slight detriment in lack of control, but absolutely not life-ruining. Though, to make up for it, you can now cause seizures really quickly. This game is certainly playable on console. The controls are certainly good enough, but I would call the PC version the definitive controls just for that extra degree of control as well as the visualization of the cursor on the buttons. And luckily, you can plug a mouse into the system you're playing on, or at least the PS4 version, and it'll work like the PC version, which is pretty cool. One more thing to mention that has little to do with the controls and more so with the controller is that when you get jump scared, the controller vibrates, which would be fine, but the vibration often lasts like a second longer than the actual jump scare's length. Not always, but it happens to the point of it being noticeable, and yeah, it's just kind of dumb. There's a few other smaller changes I noticed that don't really affect too much but are worth noting. The cone perspective is slightly better in the port, not because they actually remade the images to not get distorted when stretched into a cone. No, I just mean it's now a smoother cone. The original game's cone was pretty jaggy, which is most noticeable in the office. The fan no longer stops when you flip the camera up. Yes, I indeed did notice that tiny little mistake. Please send help. On custom night, the buttons are above and below the numbers instead of on the sides. Also, when you put in 1987 on this screen, you get the Golden Freddy jump scare. I don't know why those two things are related, but whatever. In the PC version, the game closes, but the port just resets you to the main menu. What if you actually wanted to play with that difficulty, Scott? And, yeah, that's all I could really find that's different or changed. Plus, even if there are more little things to note that I missed, by and large, it's the same shit. All the game mechanics seem to work pretty much the same. I mean, if they didn't, you'd think I wouldn't be able to use the same playstyle to complete it. So, if you like Five Nights at Freddy's, you probably already have a way of playing it. If you never played Five Nights at Freddy's but wanted to, you could do it through here if you want, but the game is so simple it can run on any shit computer for a cheaper price. If you want the cheats though, go ahead, I guess. So yeah, it technically works, but it's pretty pointless as a release, and if you own it, I will highly question you as a person. I just realized right now as I film these camera segments that in these poorly cropped screenshots in the back, for Five Nights at Freddy's 3, it has letters as the buttons. This is the PS4 copy. Anyway, there's also a mobile phone port to go over. Why? The version available now was also remastered by Click Team. However, there used to be a version of the game available to play that was ported by Scott himself in 2014. I'm not going to talk much about this version because I wasn't able to find a downloadable version to play, but I do just want to say that holy shit, this looks fucking bad. Most of the animations and the graphics and effects are heavily downgraded, and the gameplay seems to have changed. The nights are shorter, and it seems as though the AI has been altered, though, you know, I can't guarantee that, because I wasn't able to find a version of this game to play, presumably because it's shitfuck. All I can say is that I'm very glad a version of this game that is far closer to the original PC version exists on mobile now. Though, there is one thing I want to question. Why put this on mobile to begin with? I mean, gameplay-wise, it functions. The PC game involves clicking a bunch of on-screen buttons, which is very easy to translate to a game where you tap. Also, the nights are only 8 to 9 minutes, which fits the whole pull out your phone for 10 minutes while waiting for the bus type experience many phone apps try to capitalize on. However, this is supposed to be a horror game, a genre of game where you get immersed in the world and are heavily encouraged to feel emotions of fear and terror. At the very least, the jump scares are supposed to make you jump and maybe scream or react in a certain way. What I'm saying is that this seems like a perfect experience to have on your mobile phone while in the doctor's waiting room. Perfect! Anyway, this seems like more of a mobile phone port of the console version rather than the PC version. Like, it still does that fade-in effect for the night transitions. It still has to change title screen music, subtitles, and all that. However, there are a few differences. First of all, the menu looks different and gives you a few extra options. One of them is to play the game at the original aspect ratio or stretch the screen. My phone is an ultra wide, so the game automatically stretched into that aspect ratio. I guess this is a nice option for the losers out there who prefer stretched aspect ratios, but I don't feel as though we should be enabling those swine. And speaking of stretched, you also have the option to turn off the stretched cone perspective thing. Again, it's a nice option, and I wouldn't say it largely changes the game or how it's played, but now it looks like I'm sliding my whole body sideways across the room. Honestly, I have no idea which view is even better. They both look pretty unnatural. It's a shame that the only options for this kind of thing are either shit or nothing. I'm also confused as to why the mobile phone port is the only place with this option. As for the options from the console port, the subtitles are here again. As for the cheats, those aren't available to be selected by me because I didn't purchase them. Yeah, okay, so the phone version of the game was like $3, cheaper than on PC. However, there are some additional costs here if you feel a compulsive need to cheat or have some plushies on your desk. Yeah, as you can see, there's an unlock screen down here, and the cheats are under a microtransaction called the Survival Kit. Strange name for cheats. I guess this is the reason as to why the console version is $7.99 while the mobile version is just $2.99. They took the cheat microtransaction and just forcefully gave it to me. But I didn't ask for this. I didn't choose this. Yet there it is. And $7.99 was taken out of my bank account. Well, it would actually be $11 because I'm Canadian, and probably actually a bit more than that because of taxes. And also I bought on the core collection, which includes 5 games for a different price. So, fuck. There's also the option to buy plushies of the main 4 animatronics for 99 cents each. And the best part is when they're on your desk, they look like fucking garbage. They didn't get the original 3D model files for the office to actually add the plushies in. They just pasted them over top of the frame like a sticker and made you pay $1 for each new edition. What's the point of this? As for the gameplay changes, you tap the screen now instead of clicking, which works okay, but could lead to some mishaps depending on how small your display is or how fat your fingers are. That doesn't seem like a massive issue considering phone screens are pretty big nowadays, but still, if you have a tablet, that's probably the better option. The original phone port increased the size of the map by like 5 billion times to make tapping easier. Thanks, but it just makes me question why this game was put on mobile even further. Also, it looks really bad. As for the version of the game you can actually play, yet again, it's still pretty much the same game at its core, which is bad, but if you like it, playing it like this probably won't affect your enjoyment too much. But also, if you like this game, you probably already have a way of playing it. To me, the console version of Five Nights at Freddy's just exists for the novelty of it. It's for collectors' purposes. While the mobile version is for the 6-year-old iPad kids who want to play Five Nights at Freddy's really, really badly, but their parents don't want their 6-year-old using their computer, so they buy it on their iPad to get them to shut up. So if I were to rank them, I guess it would go PC, then console, then phone, but they're all pretty close, honestly. And there we go, I'm finally done talking about Five Nights at Freddy's. It only took me like a year and a half of work and procrastination. Fuck you.